Welcome to Your Brand Amplified, the podcast where we interview marketers, publicists, and brands to learn their stories, what makes them tick, and tips and tricks that make a difference. I'm so thrilled to welcome Sally Gimon to the show today. Sally, you're going to be talking about something we haven't even covered in almost 200 episodes of this podcast. So thank you for sharing your expertise with us today.
I'm impressed you have 200 episodes. I am only up to 24, and I think I've been putting a lot into it. So
yeah, well, good. Good job.
Thank you. Just a little bit of a history about me. Back in 2018, my oldest nephew was getting married in Charlotte. My parents drove from Goodyear, Arizona, just 20 miles west of Phoenix. Along the way, my mom got sick with septic of the blood. She was on a ventilator for 13 months, in a hospital for 15 months. She got better, but I was living in Phoenix, dealing with their mail 3 times a week. December, I can remember exactly what I was wearing. In December, a Medicare statement was 27 pages thick.
Oh my gosh.
Opened it up and it said in big, bold black letters, $172,000 for 1 month in the hospital. My dad was retired military. They had TRICARE for life, so my mom got the best care. But I'm standing there going, oh no, I'm living paycheck to paycheck, a brand new car that I was driving. I went through on a green light. Someone ran a red light, T-boned me. Didn't have gap insurance. I want to tell all your people, get gap insurance, because all of a sudden I had 2 car payments, student loans. I had to change something. Right then and there, in my parents' kitchen, I called my friend Glenn, who was a real estate investor. He's like, hey, we're having a party next Saturday night. We're going to be late. We're going to a Christmas pageant, but just walk in. I'm like, walk into a party on your own? No. It was the best decision I ever made. I enjoy real estate investing. I work with people to teach them real estate investing. So fast forward to July of 2020, I took down the deal of the week. It was a contract for a bank-owned reverse mortgage. Unfortunately, the woman had passed away. She had a reverse mortgage. The bank was selling it. I bought it for $20,000. It was going to go to auction for $50,000. So I'm going to make $30,000 in the spread. Nice deal.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, July 2020, middle of COVID, all the courts are shut down. I had to wait 13 months. Well, I got curious because I know about real estate investing, and with the $30,000, short-term capital gains are 23.8% on the profit. So I would pay $7,100 because I found a good real estate deal. Didn't want to do it. In my real estate group, one of the instructors, Garrett Gunderson, he wrote a book called What the Rockefellers Do. It's now called What the Billionaires Do. But I had read the book. I had a copy of it, and I went through and Googled everybody. I called people. I found the private law firm that has patent on this trust. It's legal. It's in the IRS tax code 643B. And 3 things it does for you. It saves federal taxes, keeps your information private, and keeps you from being, I can't stop you from being sued, but you don't have to pay the judgment because you own nothing but control everything. So it's an amazing, the trust comes from England way back when King Henry VIII started the Church of England. It's been in front of the Supreme Court. Nobody has heard of it. 97% of the trusts in the United States only avoid going through probate when someone dies and then they dissolve. And I'm trying to get the word out to as many people as possible because saving federal taxes, that's a lot of money you could save.
That is a lot of money you can save. So what are some of the scenarios where people can save money through this kind of trust?
I split it in half. So the overall trust, I'm going to give you the full name. It's irrevocable, complex, discretionary, non-grantor, spendthrift trust. That makes it completely private. But I have the business trust for 1099 income earners. So I'm assuming because you host different podcasts and things like that, are you all 1099 income or do you have a W-2?
I have a W-2. I am also a college professor.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of a mix of everything. Unfortunately, for taxes, now most of my income is W-2 this year. But before that, it was mostly 1099.
Unfortunately, W-2 cannot go through the trust. But 1099 income, I did not know there was so much money involved with this. A gentleman who sells light fixtures to commercial buildings, he started the trust. He says he makes $10,000 a month selling light fixtures. Because of what we're going to do with the trust, his tax rate, we know his tax rate, he's going to save over $39,800 a year in federal taxes. Well, that's just at 70% because it can be higher than that, but I just use that number to say this is what it could do. So anyone, a real estate agent, a business broker, a salesperson, affiliate marketer. One of my guys is an affiliate marketer with a huge team under him. He got the trust and now he's telling his people who are making a lot of money about that too. So that's the business trust.
Okay.
The beneficial trust is for investors. I don't care if you're a passive investor, a real estate investor, crypto investor, or crypto miner, stock market, or anything. You're going to save short-term capital gains, so 23.8%. Long-term capital gains, more than a year, it's either 15% or 20%. I'm not a CPA. I'll tell you both numbers. You have to figure that out. You're going to save interest income, so passive investors, Forex investors. You're going to save dividend income. You're going to save rental income, and then royalties. So an author, an artist, NFTs. If you have NFT real estate, NFT crypto, or NFT artwork, that's royalties.
Wow.
I can't tell you the tax bracket. There's 7 different tax brackets. The last 4, the interest income, the dividend income, rental income, and the royalties. You have to tell me your tax bracket. That's what you'll save year after year after year. And it goes to the next generation. It's an amazing thing.
Is there a minimum amount of money that you need to make as a 1099 to gain these benefits?
That's a great question. I tell people, look at your taxes. So my light fixture guy, he's just like, it's half the way through the year. He had to pay for the trust up front. I'll be honest. One trust is $20,500. Both trusts, most people don't need both trusts, but he's a salesman. But if you have both trusts, it'd be $37,000 one-time payment. The team comes with you. So he's making about $120,000 a year. He's going to save almost $38,000 a year. Real estate investors, just to give you an idea, do you do any real estate investing?
I used to have, before I was divorced, a real estate investing business. So,
wow, what did you do?
We had properties in California, Kansas, and in Texas, primarily single family. And I had some student housing around college campuses and things like that. So,
fantastic. And will you get back into it, or you don't think so?
I think I will at some point. Yes. I'm like listening to everything you're saying to see what I can do, for future planning.
Perfect. So just to give you an idea, it's called long-term holding. You can take depreciation on your rental. So some people are like, I'm not paying that much in taxes. But true story, May of 2022, Memorial Day, my friend, I've been to his house. Have you ever been to Sierra Vista, Arizona? It's just north of Tucson.
No, I've been to Tucson, but...
Okay, well, you know how beautiful the desert is. It's an A-frame glass house that goes into the mountain. Wow. It's beautiful. He has as an Airbnb. Memorial Day 2022, he gets a text. He's up in Grand Rapids dealing with a hoarder house, 7 dumpsters. He looks at his phone and his woman goes, my daughter's renting your house in Sierra Vista. I fell and broke my wrist. I'm going to sue you for everything you have.
What?
I mean, this house, the house is worth a lot of money. He calls me going, Sally, what do I do? I'm like, Brandon, where's your trust booklet? And he goes, it's in the back of my Jeep. And I'm like, okay, I don't travel with my trust booklet. So I said, wait till Tuesday, wait till our attorney contacts you. And then you just send the first page of the trust to the attorney because they can't sue the Spendthrift Trust. Wow. They can only sue Brandon. His vehicles are in the trust. Everything he owns is in the trust. So that lawsuit goes away. Well, Brandon got curious. He started Googling the woman. So let's say Memorial Day, June 1st, so 6 months of 2022, she had sued 8 different Airbnb hosts all over the San Francisco, Las Vegas, San Diego, saying I fell and broke my wrist. She was making $100,000 for each Airbnb host. I don't know how she sleeps at night, but Brandon goes, you saved me taxes and now you saved me $100,000. And yes, he's got insurance, but his insurance rates would go up. And he's just like, this trust is amazing. I gave you the link to be an affiliate. He has sent me 6 different investors he knows, because he's just like, I'm saving so much money. He found me because he was selling a plot of land in just outside Phoenix, 1.1 acres in a place called Cave Creek, Arizona. And he was going to make quite a bit of money on that. And he's just like, help me save taxes. And from there, it's only gone further.
Amazing. Well, and your story, because when we started your journey, you had 2 car payments, student loans, your brand new car had just gotten hit. Your mom was in the hospital, huge bills. And part of your hook, part of why we wanted to talk was because you also became debt free in 3 years. Was
Correct.
Part of that with the trusts? Did that help you?
I'll be honest, I started real estate investing in December 2018. I didn't start the trust until September 2020. So yes, I was paying taxes, things like that. In my real estate group, my mentor, Jay Tenenbaum, we were doing notes. It's the mortgage on a house and then bank-owned property. So banks can't hold the property. And then I had one in Thomasville, North Carolina. I got it for $11,000.
Wow.
I called 2 real estate agents. One real estate agent says, I don't work with investors. Second real estate agent's like, I've got 3 handyman, call them. So I made 2 calls and 2 more calls. First guy, too busy. Second guy goes to look at the house. He's just like, oh, it's a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house. He's just like, what if I bought it from you? And I'm like, how much are you? What? I sold it for $28,000. I made $17,000 on that one deal. Yes, I was paying capital gains and things like that, but that's how I became debt free. Just doing real estate. I love the hunting for real estate, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I love that through your real estate group, you were able to find out about these trusts and go, okay, this is something that I can offer to so many other people.
Correct. So I was running a mastermind in my real estate group for 18 months. I don't want to tell a bad story, but I will. The gentleman who runs the real estate group, he was a friend. He was my mentor. We were business partners. And I caught him in a lie about money. And I just sent a simple text, January 12th, 2022, saying, hey, what about our agreement? We had a scheduled Zoom on the 13th, and Mr. Jekyll showed up. I mean, I'm not a psychiatrist, but people tell me he sounds like a person who wants all the control.
Oh, like a narcissist?
Narcissist, because he says, I can't trust you. You're calling me a thief. And I'm like, I just said, what happened to our agreement? So he says, I don't trust you. I'm going to put your mastermind on hold for 6 weeks. And I'm like, you're making money off of what I'm doing in your mastermind. Wow. So you cut off your nose in spite of yourself. And I'm going to be honest, I was flabbergasted. I've never been spoken like that. I have a coach and she's just like, you need to move. You need to find a new real estate group and you need to go out on your business on your own. And I'm like, those 3 things.
That's a lot.
March 2020, I moved to North Carolina, started my own company, thetrustisyou.com. I just helped a gentleman yesterday. I tell people, make at least $50,000 to look at the trust, make it worthwhile.
Right.
But the gentleman yesterday, he has 5 apartment buildings in 5 different LLCs. And no offense to him, they're subject to apartment buildings. Well, if someone's dog gets out and bites the mailman's not going to go after the person living in an apartment building. He's going to go after the owner. And he's like, don't the LLCs protect me from lawsuits? I'm like, no, not at all. So we're moving that over. He wants to leave a legacy. He's got 3 children. One of his children is special needs. He can set up the trust to make sure his child is taken care of, the special agreement that, this child will be taken care of up until he dies. The other 2 children won't have to be in charge of that. So, we're helping him. I just helped a gentleman sell a car wash. If you're selling a business, 15 or 20% of the sale price goes to the federal government for capital gains. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, that is a lot of money. One of your examples was saying with the guy who sells the light fixtures. So the cost of his trust was $20,500, right?
Correct.
And he makes about $120,000 a year, but that's a one-time cost.
Exactly.
Correct? And then now he's going to have these savings in perpetuity.
Exactly. Wow.
And
so what he does, so let's say that $37,800, so I'm going to roll it up to $38,000. What he does with that $38,000, he can buy a new car. He can go on vacation. It's his money to do what he wants. The average American working 40 hours a week makes $53,000 a year. He's saving quite a bit of money to do that. He's married. He's got 2 kids. He's just like, it's going to change his entire family's trajectory. He's like, my kids can go to private school because the trust will pay for the private school, things like that. And only thing he had to do with getting 1099, he had to change the agreement with who he's working for. And he's just like, this is amazing. I have affiliate marketers. This is funny, a business broker, because I work with business brokers with people selling businesses. Okay. He gets paid 1099 income. You can have your family in the trust, but instead he told his 2 brothers, one brother sells Cadillacs and the other brother sells Porsches, and they each have their own trust, and they're 1099 income. And the one brother selling Cadillacs, he's told all his other salespeople in the place, because you can save so much money on this. It's an amazing thing. I moved to North Carolina because there's an odd rule here. Have you ever done auction houses?
I haven't, but I know people who have.
Okay.
Yeah.
Every place else in the country, but North Carolina, you go to the auction and you bid it up, you win the house, it's your house. In North Carolina, there's 101 counties, and either it's 10 business days or 10 calendar days. So you have to know each county, and you have to walk in person with either cash or cashier's check and pay $750 at least more on that house. And now it's my house, and I have a 10-day waiting period. So I contacted one of my clients. They just started doing foreclosures again in North Carolina. The Public Health Emergency Act just expired May 15th. I walked into Union County, North Carolina courthouse. The 5 custom homes were in foreclosure up when it shut down in 2020. So it only had 6 more days. You can't take your cell phone into the courthouse. So I'm out in my car and I called a friend of mine and I'm like, I need $150,000. I gave him the addresses and everything else. The weekend before Memorial Day, we had a real estate agent. She put all 5 houses under contract. Both of us are going to make quite a bit of money with doing this. My friend doesn't have the trust, but he filled out the paperwork. All the money is going to go into the trust, and we're going to save six figures in capital gains just on that deal.
Wow.
That's very unusual. Most of the places I'm dealing with is either raw land or houses that someone has the taxes. I don't mean to say this rudely. Foreclosures are going to start changing things here in North Carolina massively.
Interesting. Yeah, because I know, not to get off topic, but I had a friend who has lived in a house for a very long amount of time in Los Angeles. And they rented the house, and then they just found out it got sold. They weren't notified. But here there is a law that because they've been long-term tenants, I mean, over a decade, they were able to buy the house back for X amount plus a little bit more from whoever, because they weren't notified properly that they had the option to buy it because the owners were going through foreclosure. So is there something like that too? So that if somebody is a long-term tenant, they have some of those rights or protections as well?
With the trust, you cannot be sued in the trust.
Yeah.
With the tenants, when you have your own house, your friends bought that house, correct?
Yeah.
So let's say they bought the house. I'm making these numbers up. They bought the house for $200,000.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to stay there for 10 years and the house goes up to $500,000. The difference, if they're married, personal houses, you have to live there for 2 years. When you're married, you can claim $500,000 in capital gains. If you're single, divorced, or widow, you can claim $250,000 in capital gains that you don't have to pay because it's your personal residence.
Okay.
A friend of mine from college, true story, I don't know what the island was, but just outside Tampa Bay, Florida.
Okay.
They bought a townhouse 7 years ago. His wife works for Chase Bank. She's getting moved up to Columbus, Ohio. They went to go put the house on the market. What they bought for $320,000 was worth $1.2 million.
Gosh.
They're like, woohoo!
Wow.
We're friends on Facebook. So he sees what I post on Facebook. He's like, what can we do? And I said, we got to change it over to the trust.
Yep.
Do you know anything about a 1031 exchange? Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah.
1031 exchanges are good, but there's a very specific timeline. And if you stop the 1031, you got to keep doing the 1031 exchange down the line.
Well, and will you explain what that is for the listeners who might? Yeah.
1031 exchange, it's an investment property, not your own house. So they couldn't do a 1031. It's an investment property. You have to find a third party intermediary for it. You've got 45 days to do that, and then 180 days to find a like property that you buy to do that. So if you're raw land, single family home, multifamily home, multifamily home. But you have to continue the 1031 going down the line because you're just kicking the can down the street. I have talked to 9 different children. They're not children, they're grown adults, but their parents were real estate investors. They didn't know about the 1031 exchange. It's second generation. And all of a sudden they get this tax bill from the federal government. Why do I have to pay this? Because maybe back in the 70s or back in the 80s, their parents did something and they didn't follow through with this. With this trust, I don't know why you would cancel the trust out. You can do it, but this is going to go into perpetuity as long as there's a United States. Once the United States dissolves, I don't think it's going to, or if Congress ever gets together and says this isn't allowed anymore. So let's say you buy the trust June 15th. Congress changes the date on September 1st. Anybody behind June 15th, it's a contract. They can't change it. Anything after September 1st, they can't have the trust. So it's contract law. It's on the federal level. If you get everything into it, when you were doing your own business and doing your LLCs with your ex-husband, did you have them in LLCs or did you have them in an S Corp or a C Corp?
For those, we had LLCs. And then I know that he has a trust set up and everything's under the trust because he still has a significant amount of real estate and things like that. We won't go into all the details, but I was a second wife that, signed a bad prenup.
Well, LLCs, S Corps and C Corps are statutory law. They're different in every state. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, in California, it's $800 a year to have your LLC. And then you have to file K-1s, which is a tax document, March 15th, so you can file your taxes April 15th. The trust does away with all that. I moved to North Carolina in March of 2022. I registered my car, had Arizona plates on my car. I went to the DMV with the trust booklet. I registered the car in the trust name. The trust pays for the registration, the insurance, pays for my gas, pays for my windshield wipers, pays for the insurance. Business trust will pay for this. But if I only had the beneficial trust, if you're an investor, I could write a demand letter up to $12,000. That's what the blue book value of my car is.
Okay. To
pay for food, fun, and fashion. So the 3 Fs aren't covered by the beneficial trust. But I tell people, take a little notebook with you. Like 2 weeks ago when I was going to the courthouse, I have a red debit card for the beneficial trust, a blue debit card for business trust. I don't know why I didn't have my blue debit card, but I was getting gas. So I did the red debit card and there was a cake donut. I paid for it with the wrong debit card. I kept the receipt. At the end of May, I have a manila folder. I just slide all my paperwork in there, and I had a request demand letter for $2 for a donut that I did not need. But it was my favorite donut. So yes.
Okay, so let's talk about, because I work as a VP in a company where I have a W-2. I also teach university, and I believe that is also a W-2 situation. But then I also have an S Corp for my podcast and any other things that I do for my podcast.
Correct.
So how does the trust work with an S Corp or a C Corp or an LLC? Because you were talking a little bit about that, but I really want to make it really clear for myself and for the audience how a trust could benefit if you have one of those types of businesses. You don't pay yourself as a W-2 employee. Maybe you do an owner draw every once in a while, or, some other situation.
Correct. The trust does not own any LLC, S Corp, or C Corp.
Okay.
So what you would do, you would go to the Secretary of State and you would transfer what's in S Corp to the trust.
Okay.
It's very easy to do. It would be a simple bill of sale saying your podcast, your own brand. You would say on June 15th, I'm taking my podcast, my own brand from XYZ S Corp, putting it into my own name. And then the second bill of sale would be, I'm taking your brand podcast from my own name into the trust name. And you just have to get those bills notarized, and then it's in the trust name with no problem whatsoever. Again, let's say you're making money off of your podcast. It would be the business trust, so you don't have to worry about the demand letter. It would pay for, hey, you want to get your hair cut? You want to go to Disney World? You want to go out to dinner and not talk about business? It would pay for all those things. Wow. When I did my auction house, I bought the trust September 2020. I did 2 simple bill of sales. Went to the bank. Consideration is $1. The bank notarized it. I'm living in Phoenix. I scanned it, sent it to the attorney in Raleigh. The next day, the attorney in Raleigh says, hey, Sally, I need the first page of your trust. Scan that, sent it to the attorney in Raleigh. When it finally did auction, August 28th, 2021, the trust owned it. It didn't go for $50,000. It went up to over $64,000. So 2 hours of work, driving to the bank, driving home, things like that. I saved $10,550 on that one real estate deal. And I haven't looked back since then. I mean, the trust has paid for itself over and over again.
Amazing. Why don't people know about this?
That's a great question. I don't know. I'll be honest. In my real estate group, it's a national real estate group. We do have an accountant. Back when the gentleman who ran the Phoenix group and we went to had a meeting with the accountant. I don't want to say his name. We make the presentation, everything else. And he's sitting there and goes, okay, thank you. And we walked out. We're standing in the parking lot. And I'm like, he makes money off of doing the LLCs, S Corps, filing the paperwork, things like this. I think that's why people don't want to know about it, because I'm not trying to take money away from CPAs and attorneys. I'm trying to help average Americans. The average person joining my national real estate group is a 56-year-old man trying to save more money for retirement. If he can save extra money for retirement and leave a legacy for his family, that's an amazing thing.
Yeah. Well, so let's talk a little bit about that. Your real estate group. What is it? How does it work? And how do people join? Are you accepting new members into it?
Correct. The overall name, it's not advertised very much. It's called Renata's Education. I am an ICM, Independent Contract Marketer. I think that ICM stands for. So if I recruit people, there's different levels of education. Everybody in the real estate group has what's called the essentials classes. It's 11 essential classes to teach you what's a contract, what's a wholesale deal, what's a fix and flip. You can watch the classes on your computer or on your cell phone, and they're yours forever. You can buy more education at $8,000, or you can buy the whole enchilada for $20,000. And then, depending what you want. I go back and watch the classes over and over again. When I joined the real estate group, it's going to sound bad. I was a Medicare broker, and it's very quiet in December. There's not much happening. So I'm watching my classes at work, and I was loving it. But, I've gone back to certain classes because you can take notes. If you're doing it on your laptop, you can take notes and go back to it and everything else. There is a class my mentor, Jay Tannenbaum, is doing. He teaches the notes very differently. Jay gets the notes directly from people who are selling the tapes. There's different ways to do real estate, but wholesaling is probably the easiest thing to do, where if you get a list from a real estate agent of who's in pre-foreclosure or foreclosure, when someone hits foreclosure, under normal rules, it's 90 days that they have to figure out how to stop the foreclosure. If you can get that house under contract and then resell the contract and make $20,000 or $10,000 on the deal, that's wholesaling. And it's easy to do. Before COVID, I door knocked in Phoenix and wholesaled quite a few houses that way.
Wow. Okay. So the real estate group is educational. It's not an investment group where you are pooling money together to invest
Correct.
together.
It's a complete educational. I do have the gentleman who gave me the $155,000 for the 5 custom houses. He's in the real estate group. We're friends, and I just knew he had done a real estate deal. I'm like, hey, his only downside doing this is if we got outbid, he'd have to wait for 2 weeks to get the money back. But that didn't happen. We won the bid, and we're going to get paid in July for this real estate deal.
Very nice. So what has motivated you to help people discover this? Just helping people save money, seeing how it helped you?
That's a great question. This is a true story. I talked to them in December of 2022. The Jim is selling a restaurant March 15th, 2023. His son saw one of my TikTok videos about capital gains, showed it to his dad. Jim's 69, he's never been on Zoom. Another child put him on Zoom. We discussed this. He's selling his entire restaurant, 42-year-old restaurant, all the food, the cutlery, the recipes for $5 million. They're retiring to Florida. Have a conversation. We got on, talked to his business broker. I don't know if Jim was going to pay 15% at $490,000 or 20% at $600,000. That's 6 figures that he would have to pay. He's selling it March 15th. He wouldn't pay it until April 15th, 2024. So they're closing the deal. Someone's buying the restaurant from him. On March 15th, I see a Tennessee number come through that's not on my phone. I'm like, oh, let me just answer it. It's his wife in happy tears going, she knew they were getting the trust. She didn't know how much money that was. I don't know the TV show. Someone named Dave who does My Lottery Dream Home or something, a TV show. She wants to contact him to say, find us a 2-bedroom, 2-bath house between $460,000 to $600,000. And they're going to call it the Capital Gains Savings House. He's 69, she's 68. This is changing their retirement and what they're going to leave to their 3 children because he worked hard for 42 years. He was working the restaurant. And I can't tell you how wonderful that phone call was. I mean, I'm still glowing over that phone call.
That's really amazing. Yeah, I'd love to go back to your parents. How were they able to solve that issue of all of the debt from the hospital with your mom?
My father was retired military, 27 years in the military. He had TRICARE for life. Don't want to get into the weeds, but there's things called supplement plans and advantage plans. So Medicare is Part A and Part B. So the TRICARE for life paid for everything that Medicare did not pay for. So it was all paid for. My mom stayed in North Carolina for 9 months. Can I tell you a sad story?
Yeah.
I came out here for Christmas, and on New Year's Eve, I had to get back to Phoenix. I had to be at work at 6:00 on January 2nd.
Wow.
On New Year's Eve, she's in a hospital in Pineville, North Carolina, just outside Charlotte. She's on the floor with 24 other patients on ventilators. New Year's Eve, 4 different families took their family members off the ventilators and took them home against doctor's orders. The respiratory therapist was late coming into my mom's room, and just tears are running down her face. And she's like, what's going on? I'm like, tomorrow, January 1st, if you're on an Advantage plan, you're going to have a deductible from anywhere from $2,000 up to $20,000, whatever the deductible is, and families can't afford it. I don't ever want to have a family member have to make a decision. Do they live or do they die? I mean, thank God my mom was taken care of when they were she was long-term care, and they were going to move her to a town called Elizabethtown, my dad was staying with my brother and sister-in-law. And my dad's like, let's bring her back to Phoenix. The TRICARE did not pay for that. My dad paid for her to fly back, but he felt that was better. He was missing his friends. He was missing his house, everything else. I was at work and I came in when I came back, and I'm like, you flew in a Learjet. How was it? He goes, wait, can I take our snow? He had put everything in plastic bags. So he's like a homeless man because the jet, I guess, narrows down. But it was St. Patrick's Day. My mom's from Ireland. I walked in before work and it was raining in Phoenix, which is unusual. And I went to go open the window because my mom loved the smell of rain. She's from Ireland. And all of a sudden from the bed, she goes, Sally, you cut your hair. And I turned around, I'm like, what? I had really long hair past my shoulders. And her memory, other than the 13 months she missed it, her memory came completely back. Everybody in the family sent her wedding pictures. I had everybody send me, because she was missing 13 months, but she got better. She came home from the hospital. I got an extra 3 months with my mom because my dad could afford to keep her in the hospital for 15 months. Those family members who took their 4 family members home, they don't have those memories. So this is one of the reasons I appreciate you having me on your podcast, because if I can help, Jim and Ellen save $460,000 in their retirement, if they do have a health crisis, they'll have money to pay for that, because you shouldn't have to worry about what's going to happen if you don't have enough money when you get old. That's the worst thing in the world.
Yeah. Wow. Well, is there any last word of wisdom that you'd like to leave with our audience? Do you have a favorite quote, mantra, some words that you live by?
I was the last graduating class of my elementary school and my high school. My high school was Robert E. Perry High School. My best friend Carla and I always said this. So Robert E. Perry founded the North Pole, and his famous quote is, I shall find a way or make one.
Oh,
It's my mantra. And, I'm going to be honest. I was in debt. I was living paycheck to paycheck. I made a decision to change my life. It's doable. People can change things. Several of my friends, I don't mean to say this rudely, but several of my friends are still checked out over COVID. They go home and watch Netflix, binge on Netflix. And, I'm a huge hockey fan. I was going to the gym to watch ESPN sports because I don't have ESPN on my home TV. I do have it now. So I got to watch the hockey game last night. And friends are like, well, buy ESPN. I'm like, why would I need ESPN when I don't watch it that much? So my whole thing, just do it. Do something to change your life because there's so much out there that you can do to make your life a little bit better.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, Sally. Really appreciate it.
Oh, I've talked the whole time. I'm so sorry.
No, not at all. And I'm going to make sure we drop your information in the show notes so that everybody knows
Excellent.
to go to your website, get more information. What you're talking about is something that nobody knows about and is a game changer for anyone who's a 1099 or is going to be in a situation where they might go through capital gains or needs to figure out how to restructure things. So
dividends, just give you an idea. One of my friends inherited his dad's stock market account. He was making $60,000 every quarter, nice stock market account. For the first year, the father died during COVID 2021. He was going on a great vacation. Then he got the tax bill. Just with dividends, he's paying 28%. So we're saving him $17,600 every quarter with that. I have an NFT artist who's saving 24%. She's selling a series, one of 100 pictures. And she's just retired her husband from being an IT professional, and he walks his kids to school now because they're saving so much in taxes.
That's really beautiful. And I love that it's applicable no matter, NFTs, crypto, all these things that are more modern, but also old school, real estate investments, stocks. So it really runs the gamut. Yeah,
exactly. I'm so glad that you took time to listen to me because I want to get the word out there. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you to the audience for coming back and listening to another amazing expert with some really great wisdom for you, some things to think about. We all need to be able to protect our money and pay as little towards taxes as we can with maximum benefit to provide for ourselves and our families. And I will be back again in a few days with another great expert. Want more? Check out amplifywithannika.com or follow me on socials at amplifywithannika.